It's time to take command with former NFL tight end Logan Paulsen and former Commanders beat reporter Craig Hoffman.
What's up? What's happening? Welcome in. It is the Take Command podcast. I'm Craig Hoffman. He is Logan Paulsen, and we're talking about a 34-13 Washington Commanders win, which looked just as good on tape, just as dominant on tape as it did as we watched it. Well, for us in person, Logan, at Northwest Field, and obviously for many of you on TV, or maybe you were one of the 60, 70, whatever thousand it was people at Northwest Field on Sunday. We'll have our preview of Baltimore on Thursday, the biggest game that this franchise has had on the field in a long, long time. So already looking forward to that. But let's look back one more time at this beatdown of the Cleveland Browns. And let's start on the offensive side, Logan, where we say we're going to start on the offense, but really this was a team win. Like Dan Quinn said, my favorite part about the team is the team. And it's a great quote. It's a good sentiment. But this really was a team win. And I mentioned that not just for feel goods and vibes, but you want to talk about an offense that got supported by their defense and playing complementary football, and the offense then supporting the defense. Special teams gets involved. We're going to talk about that later in the show. But how did that affect the offense in terms of what they were able to do, the situations they were in, and how they were able to take advantage of it?
Yeah, I mean, I thought early on, especially on the rewatch, I felt like Cleveland had a really good feel for what was going to be disruptive. And they were like, we're going to play man. We're going to get our safeties near the line of scrimmage. We're going to kind of kill your quarterback run game. It's funny. I was actually starting to preview the Baltimore offense, and I was looking at what Cincinnati did versus them. It was a very similar plan. And it just makes you less efficient once you take the quarterback out of the rushing game. And so I thought that was a really good plan. And they were basically like, you're going to have to win versus pressure and win from the pocket. And early on, it looked like Jayden was going to have a hard time with that. And it wasn't just Jayden. It was like the entire offense was kind of getting used to Cleveland's ability to rush the passer with four, to bring different looks, the speed of the linebackers, the speed that they were peeling double teams. Like, that is a fun defense to watch. And so obviously, get that explosive play early on where Jayden, talk about a well-designed pressure. They go like basically a full slide left. The offense does full slide left. They wrap a guy around. They bring a guy off the edge. It's a six-man pressure with a zone principle underneath. There's nowhere to go with the football. And Jayden just kind of makes magic, gets out of it, right? Throws the ball down the field. Great job, Terry. And then I think it showed. Then he throws the interception once they get down the red zone. And I think it showed kind of his adaptation process to the Cleveland defense. And it took a little bit of time. And so what I will say is the defense allowed him to take his time. Like, I watched the game a little bit differently this week than I've watched in the past. I basically was like, I'm going to watch the offense and I'm going to switch over to the defense and watch the defensive series.
So you watch the game in order versus watching offense only, defense only,
just to get a feel for what the defense was doing.
Right.
And it was great. They get that, they get the interception, right? And then they go down, and then Frankie Luva gets the fourth down stop. And then you get the short field, and it leads to a B-Rob touchdown. Like, that touchdown doesn't happen because they went 3 and out in their first 2 drives, if I'm not mistaken. And then you get that.
The order, there's a little. So they get the interception, and then it's a 3 and out.
Right.
And then a punt, and
so
they have a good field position.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm not in my notes. I'm just kind of going off memory. But they get the 3 and out, short field, right? Great job.
Right.
And they have to drive down and score. So I do think that there was like this really nice support from the defense and this scaffolding that allowed the offense to be less than perfect, which was a really cool dynamic, because the offense, it's been switched the last couple of weeks where the offense has been perfect. They've been carrying the defense, and now it was kind of more of a symbiotic relationship, which was great to see. And so I think that was the thing that I came out of it, was that, and that happened constantly. Like, even in the 2-minute drive where they get the stop kind of right at the 2-minute warning, they get the ball back to the offense, and Jayden drives down to score. Like, every single instance there allowed Jayden more time to kind of overcome what Cleveland was presenting. And I think that situation there in the 2-minute was awesome, because we were able to go hurry up. Washington was, the Commanders were, and it allowed us to kind of be in what we want to do, and it simplified what they want to do, because they were a little bit more conservative, and we were able to take advantage. So I just think it was a beautiful matching of kind of like Jayden struggling a little bit early. Let's settle him in. There were some bad field position things too. We talked before the show started about the backed up look too. And it allowed you to kind of make mistakes. And then when it was time the offense made big plays and found explosive opportunities down the field, basically.
Yeah, I think that's the thing that stands out is just like if you can make a few key plays, it changes everything. And there's a couple of drives that we could talk about with that where, I mean, that first one that they get moving on where he ultimately throws the pick, but like that drive was dead. Like that, they were not moving. And then Jayden just escapes just runs around pressure, launches a ball 56 yards in the air on the run. And all of a sudden you're at the 5-yard line. I think we should probably, when we get to Jayden and talking about him, we should talk about that goal line sequence. Cause I do wonder, kind of what happened down there and what you saw on the, in the red zone. But like ultimately as the game goes on, he just finds more plays. And there's certain things that Cliff is able to do with this offense that I don't know that you can do with 20, let's call it 25 of the quarterbacks that are starting games right now, where it's like you leave guys unblocked. Why? Because Jayden can just run around him. There's one play, actually the drive I think that we want to talk about a little more in depth, that it starts with 6:05 left in the first quarter. And on first down, Jayden, it's like a zone read play action kind of look. And so I don't know. I don't think it's a true RPO.
It's I would classify it as a keeper. So hard play action away. He turns his back.
Hard play action, but they leave Zadarius Smith unblocked.
Yeah, which sometimes happens on those play designs for sure.
Right. But if you're Cliff, you're much more confident in leaving that guy unblocked and not having a tight end chip or whatever, because Jayden Daniels can outrun Zadarius Smith. And I think that like when you contrast it with, say, the Cleveland offense and the number of times they leave guys in or they do extra stuff. And you're like, wait, are there only 3 guys in this route or 4 guys in this route? You realize that, or you're reminded the math here. It's every receiver that you leave in, every running back or tight end or whoever else you leave in to chip or just straight up block, that's 20% of your eligible receivers. And so that's a huge amount of options that is removed from the quarterback's possibilities. And especially on something like a boot or a rollout where you're kind of cutting the field in half anyway, like you're probably taking the backside receiver out by design on that anyway. And so the ability to just trust Jayden to get around Zadarius Smith, and then he fires a ball through a tight window to Terry and you pick up double-digit yardage. Like that's one, good design, smart use of personnel, and 2, just a dude absolutely making a play because that throw and the escapability that he has is just sick.
No, yeah, I totally agree. I think that's a really cool play because of the things you're talking about. Obviously he outruns Darius Smith and he makes this tremendous play, but it's crazy to watch. And it's, the more football I watch and prepping for each team each week, you see the teams that are special have personnel, specifically a quarterback, that can elevate you on a down-to-down basis. So there's an example where if that's, what'd you say, 25, one of the other 30 quarterbacks?
It's 20. Oh, yeah, 25 other. Basically, if it's not Pat Mahomes, Josh Allen, Lamar, maybe Kyler, like these super mobile, can throw off platform crazy guys, which there are more of than there used to be, but there ain't many.
Yeah. Yeah, and so that's kind of exactly my point here, is that like he elevates that play, and then he gets to the perimeter, and there's another guy, number 72, I forget his name, but he's coming and he's on him right now, and then delivers an absolute dot to Terry in between a couple defenders. Terry makes a nice catch, but that's an example of what I would call like players making the play come to life. And I have such a better appreciation for this now that I'm coaching at the high school level, because there's times you're like, oh man, that's a terrible call. Oh no, what are we going to do? And then the kids make something happen. And I think that's what you're seeing here too. It's like Cliff, and we talked about this versus Arizona a little bit and versus Cincinnati, is Cliff's doing a great job designing the offense, but the guys really do a great job in these moments of making it come to life. And I think that's a great example of that, where this isn't exactly perfect. It's not exactly what we want, but you make this guy miss. You buy a little time. And Jayden could have easily scrambled there for like a no-yard gain because, again, 72 is right there on the pressure. But you're patient. You make a throw. You made a play in the offense. And that's kind of the first one that's in structure in the game that gets the ball rolling, which is pretty cool. And I think there's a bunch of that's a really good drive to talk about, because there's other plays where you're like, oh, they're elevating the call here, which is great. So,
and by the way, Terry makes a hell of a catch on that play. He gets blasted by 2 dudes. The ball's a little bit behind him, but I mean, it kind of has to be, otherwise he doesn't get through the window. But Terry does a great job of throttling just enough that he can slow down, reach behind him, catch the football, secure it, take a hit, get both feet down, because it's not terribly far from the sidelines. Like, he catches that thing outside the numbers, and all of a sudden you're rolling. Let's go through that drive, actually, Logan. I've got it pulled up in front of me. You got your notes in front of you. So the next play is quarterback sweep, which goes nowhere. That is one area where some of these quarterback sweeps out in the field, what is there anything that you notice on those, whether it's design, whether it's just like, hey, guys are making plays defensively? Those are tough runs, but where those aren't working as well?
Yeah, on that one specifically, I really kind of liked how they got to it. They had B-Rob kind of motion down to look like what would be like a chip alignment. He does a really good job cracking the end. The problem is he lets up a little penetration. And anytime you're running a quarterback sweep or a quarterback pin pull or a running back pin pull as a guy who's blocked those before, if you give up any kind of penetration, you can knock off the tackle or knock off the puller. And B-Rob loses a very slight amount of ground. Wiley gets tripped up. He can't get to the guy in the second level. Jayden's out ahead of him. And the timing's just off of the run. And they ran one later, I think it was in the third quarter, where they're running to the offensive right, and Cosme and Wiley do a great job getting out in space, and they block it up and ends up being like an 11-yard gain, something like that sets up B-Rob's touchdown run, the short touchdown run, or maybe it was McNichols. But I think those are – I've always been I've never been a big believer in pin pull because I know that first block is so hard. And so if you've got someone who's doing it for the first time, like B-Rob was in this game, and he did a fine job, it wasn't bad, but he had a good crack. The problem was he kind of knocked it, like Wiley almost wasn't ready for as good as it was and winds up getting tripped up by the guy. Yeah, no, absolutely. And so I think I think that's kind of what I'd say is like they've been really excellent at executing those types of plays. I think when you look at Arizona, there's a touchdown on a very similarly designed play. I think that's going to be an effective play for them in the low red. I think they might need to think about a different variation because I think teams are going to start anticipating that a little bit more. But I think it just was an example of where the play on paper is good, the execution falls short. And when you juxtapose that to the other 5 plays on this drive, you'll see why the execution and the players elevating the call is so incredibly important. So even on the next play, I think is a really good example where, it's 2nd and 12.
So now you're in 2nd and 12. Washington's on the Cleveland 24 with 4:43 to go in the first quarter.
Yeah, and they bring like a 6-man pressure. And what I love about it is Jayden sets the protection. He points to the offensive right. I forget who the player is. I think it's a safety kind of walking towards the line of scrimmage. Yep. The offensive slides to that. The running back runs up, and they bring a nickel pressure to the offensive left. So they're bringing a 6-man pressure. So they're it looks like he should be hot, but he keeps his composure. Very, very calm, cool, and collected. B-Rob comes over, picks up the blitzing nickel. And what I love about this is that amongst this pressure, amongst kind of this firestorm that Cleveland's trying to bring, he's very calm and delivers a strike to Luke McCaffrey and it's only for a 3-yard gain, but it kind of showed me that, hey, I'm kind of settling a little bit. I'm feeling more comfortable. I understand that I'm picked up. I don't need to vacate a clean pocket. And there was an opportunity to push the football down the field to Terry a little bit. But I thought kind of understanding that it's a 6-man rush, like let's get the ball out of our hands. Let's throw them out of these pressure looks. I thought was a really cool moment. And again, that's kind of, you're getting what the play is designed for there, as opposed to the first play we described where you're kind of elevating the play call. But I thought that was a really cool moment for Jayden just to kind of, again, this wasn't his most perfect game. It wasn't his most perfect opportunity. But, hey, I know what I'm supposed to be doing. I know, like, that's something when you watch young quarterbacks and when you watch this Cleveland offense that is so important to an offense. Does the quarterback understand the protection? Does he understand the blitz? Does he understand when he's hot? And does he understand when he has some time to throw the football? And I felt like that was a really cool moment for me to see from him. And I know it's only a 3-yard game, so I'm not trying to overhype it, of that level of understanding that can really take you a long way.
Yeah, for sure. So they get the 3-yard gain with him kind of throwing behind the blitz to Luke. So it sets up a 3rd and 9. It's 4:05 to go now in the first. Now they're on the Cleveland 21. So you're in field goal range, and they motion out into a bunch where I think it's Eckler's in the backfield. Zacchaeus in the backfield. 2 back, and then Eckler's still in the backfield. Zacchaeus motions out to a bunch. There was a stack, and now it's 2 receivers and Zach Ertz in that bunch, and they kind of just run some traffic and let Ertz, I'm guessing this is a choice route, kind of runs an angle in, and they pick up 7 on this play to get in good 3rd down territory. I'd say one other thing real quick that I noticed before you talk a little bit more about what happens on the concept here is, like, Jayden has a good feel for the pocket here. AKA Myles Garrett's on my blind side. And as he drops back and he steps into the throw, you make sure he steps to the throw, which is just good fundamentally, but it also, there's like a subtle slide away from Myles Garrett. He feels that, let's see, is it Coleman or
Brandon
Lucas?
Coleman.
Yeah, Coleman, is taking a little bit of pressure. Like Coleman's fine, but the pocket's starting to collapse a little bit on that side. And he just ever so slightly moves away from it, make sure that he's clean, make sure that his arm doesn't get hit. And again, it's little things that you're like, when you watch the good quarterbacks versus the guys who don't have the feel for that, you're like, that happens all the time. It's routine. And that's a good thing that Jayden already has that feel.
Yeah, and so I really like this play too, because I think it's a good example of both parties helping each other out. So they ran a similar motion versus Arizona last week, where OZ lines up in the backfield. They motioned him to a bunch, and instead of running a corner post with a return route underneath by OZ, they run basically like what I would call like a gold rush concept. So the guy in the ball runs, I think it's a corner. The guy outside runs a clear, like running across the formation, a drag.
Yep.
For those like Pop Warner coaches out there. And then Zach Ertz takes an outside release, gets a guy outside leverage, runs a really nice choice, but it's a tight window throw. Like the guy's still in pretty tight coverage on him. And so that's where I think it's really cool also to see the trust that Jayden has in some of his playmakers. Like there was a completion later to Luke McCaffrey on an out where he's throwing that ball before Luke's out of the out route. The timing's really good. This feels very similar to me. It's like, I'm going to trust my guy, Zach. He's gonna use his body, shield the defender, and make this play. And again, the pairing of the play caller and the execution here is really beautiful, because we took a play that we ran last week. We put a little bit of different seasoning on it. It gets us the same matchup we want. And everyone runs this gold rush concept. Everybody in the NFL runs that. But how you get to it, how you kind of disguise it, how it makes the teams think about, oh, shoot, they're motioning to a bunch. They ran this last week. And we get the good matchup. Running the route versus outside leverage, that's exactly what you want. OZ cleans out that plug defender, and the throw is right on the money. And Zach makes a beautiful catch. So I think it's just cool to see the play design kind of marrying concepts like we've been talking about Cliff and what he's been doing for this offense in terms of elevation, but also the execution here is excellent. And I think that's something that for fans, it's really hard to kind of quantify that when you're allocating credit. But this is a good example. Like, Cleveland's covering this pretty well, but Jayden makes a good throw, and Jayden makes a great catch. Zach, makes a great catch. So lots of cool stuff there, play design and execution.
Yeah, for sure. And I've started to watch some other stuff from like, what else is possible here? Because, I was joking on a show that I did yesterday where I was like, I might just make a bunch of notes and take command about the throws that Jayden misses or the opportunities that he misses, because it feels like those will be not to nitpick, but because those will be the touchdowns next week. And there's nothing missed here, but like you do get Terry one-on-one on the backside. And so like different coverage, you wind up throwing something on the backside here. Austin winds up leaking out into the flat pretty clean. And so like those are the kind of the mental notes you wind up taking where you're like, if this thing gets covered or teams start to allocate an extra player to that side of the field to make the numbers bad, like there's opportunities, on the other side for two of your best playmakers. So like, the idea of building, like, they use the same bunch of different guys, that same motion with OZ, run something slightly different. It's like, okay, well, the next counter is already set up, the next counter. And especially for a guy like Cliff, who at times has gotten figured out, if you will, late in seasons, it's good to see that progression. Next play is a run for Eckler, I believe, for 10 yards. Yeah, down to the Cleveland 4. So they're at the 14. And this is the 4th and 2, where they start Austin out wide. He comes across, and you get the jet sweep, Logan.
Yeah, the jet sweep. And I remember watching this play live, and I was like, this is not going to work because of how Cleveland played it. They got this great push on the edge. And, usually on the jet sweep, you want those two tight ends to kind of dent that edge, make it soft so that you can run to the perimeter and get the first down. That you do also coach it that if it gets a little bit muddy and it stretches, you can put your foot in the ground and go up. But the problem with it is that it doesn't really stretch. It just kind of is there. There's a little penetration. There's like basically a block to the perimeter. And again, like we've talked about play calling, we've talked about players elevating. And on this drive, again, one of the reasons we're talking about it is because Austin makes magic here. Like this play should really be dead. The fact he's running full speed, he's right on the double team with the tight ends, he's able to put his foot in the ground and get vertical. Awesome to kind of maximize and get this first down, but then to turn that into 10-yard gain is incredible. And it just speaks to the athleticism and the explosiveness that he brings to the offense. But as a play caller, you're watching that from the sideline going, oh no, like we're out of water here.
We're dead.
And it just, Austin makes a tremendous play. And there's that saying where it's like players make plays. This is a really good iteration of guys just making ball plays and doing what they're supposed to do, even though the look might not be optimized. And it was cool to see that other guys kind of brought that mantle with them. And we've talked about Austin, specifically the Cincinnati game, but guys made plays when they had to make them, and Jayden could rely on certain guys to make plays when he had to, which was great to see.
I'll tell you another detail of this play that I just noticed watching it again is the fake on the backside, if you will, right? So like they hand the ball in the jet sweep and then they fake the handoff to B-Rob, and like obviously all the blockers are pulled towards what looks like that kind of halfback dive type of play to B-Rob. And the reason that's really important, B-Rob does a great job of carrying out the fake, like Jayden does a good job. B-Rob like really sells like, I got the ball and I'm diving in, because Okoronkwo, 54, literally jumps out of the hole. Like if he notices that Austin is coming on a jet sweep and just stands there, it is a defensive end versus Austin Eckler at the line of scrimmage for 2 yards in the hole. And if Austin can pile through, great. If not, but he literally jumps out of the hole towards B-Rob. And because like Wiley, like he puts a hand on him, but he then, pushes back inside, and Okoronkwo just follows him. And it's like, okay, buddy, if you stand there, you got a free tackle on Austin Eckler. And instead he dives to the front side of the fake run, and Austin's able to cut back up. So you talk about the details, and again, like, is it pretty standard to carry out a fake, things like that, but you have to sell it. And you see like these little details and why those little details matter on something like that. Anything else from this play before we get to the B-Rob touchdown?
No, I mean, I was just thinking about it, just trying to visualize, I think it's Bush who misses the tackle, right? He like over pursues in the second level. So basically what they were doing the whole game to kind of account for this like zone read element the quarterback brings is they were like telling the defensive end, who is Okoro in this case, to attack the dive, and then the linebacker is going to scrape over the top. And so the linebacker's scraping to kind of fill that hole. And I felt like he was the one that screwed it up because of the speed.
He over pursued.
And for sure. This is why, like outside zones, reverses are so effective, is because that horizontal stretch that it's putting on the defense forces guys to feel like I have to be wider than I really do. And again, Austin does a great job of hurting them with that, but not everybody makes that play. And he's done that a couple times this year. So I think that was the thing I'd say. Like maybe this is like a secondary point, is I thought Cleveland had a really good plan for some of this kind of misdirection stuff, specifically the quarterback reads, and you'll see it here. But the fact you're still able to get what you want to get out of this run, even though Cleveland's playing it smartly, again, is a testament to the players.
Yeah, for sure. One other thing this popped in my mind off of both of those points too, and then we'll get to the B-Rob touchdown because there's plenty of cool stuff to talk about here. But the long run by Eckler, one thing that like everyone talked about OZ on that play and him going and getting the fumble, obviously super important. Hustle, great, approved. One thing that Cliff does really well is just like remove players from the point of attack. And so like, again, on this one, making sure that you have the front side dive, or, different variations of that. But on that long run by Eckler, he puts OZ in motion. It's like an orbit motion. And so like, how does a run go from 10 to 60 or 10 to 50? You take the corner out of it. And he didn't have to break a tackle. The corner was in man, and he just followed OZ across the formation, and there's no contained player. And so there's like little things like that, or one less contained player, I guess is probably the more correct way to say that. But like some of these designs by Cliff that just are like, all right, well, how do we deal with this guy? Let's just take him out of the picture. Are really, really good, and taking advantage of the way defenses are going to play some of this stuff. And I think that's another good example of like, hey, if you're going to be really aggressive on the dive, like let's use that against you with this end around, this reverse in the way that you were just talking about. All right. Last but not least on this drive that we wanted to kind of highlight here, Brian Robinson, 4 yards off left tackle. Again, same kind of thing. Actually, they send Terry in motion on a fake jet sweep. You got two DBs that follow him out of the picture, and that is two less guys that Brian Robinson has to worry about. And in terms of DBs, Luke McCaffrey takes care of the one that remains.
Yeah, and that's one where It's like this wham play. They used to call it double trap. I don't know what they call it now, but it's basically.
I heard someone on Twitter who does a lot of online stuff called it crunch, which I think is kind of a cool.
It's a cool name. And so basically, what you're doing is you got the tight end off the ball and the wing to the offensive left. You've got the guard to the play side, and you pull the play side guard. And so when you pull the play side guard, the 3 technique, who's lined up over the guard, is going to squeeze. And so that squeeze is basically like creating a crease in the defense because he's doing what he's supposed to do. Like when that guard pulls, I have to pursue because you're adding gaps weak. And so what you're doing with the tight end is you're taking advantage of that. So as the guard pulls, the tight end comes and whams or cracks or crunches that 3 technique and washes him down in a line of scrimmage. The tackle blocks out on the defensive end. And so you get this nice crease because the center is uncovered and he can play backside and block that backer that's stacking the 3 technique. So it's a really cool play. And because of the influence of the guard pulling, usually that play side backer will flow and make an easier block for the center. It's a really well-designed play and it can kind of give you fits because it messes with offensive rules or defensive rules, excuse me. So B-Rob does a great job reading it out. I will say, even though they take and they kind of shift the front, the safety on that side does a really nice job of triggering downhill immediately to fill the gap. And he's the guy that B-Rob is kind of tangled up with. So B-Rob hits him. It's like a long kind of delayed breaking tackle. It's not a clean tackle break. Everyone does a really good job sustaining their block, specifically Luke McCaffrey. Like this is the point of this little segment, is to show that play on paper, good play. It's a 4-yard gain. Awesome. Everyone's excited. It becomes a touchdown through a great block by John Bates, a tremendous individual effort by B-Rob, and then an even more kind of unheralded effort by Luke McCaffrey to stick and maintain that block for as long as he does. Because once B-Rob's out, there's nobody else, and Luke is still blocking that guy. He's still blocking that guy probably today. Great job by Luke. But that it takes something that is a good, well thought out play and then makes it a touchdown. And I think when you look at the keeper, you look at the jet sweep, you look at Jayden working his progression and understanding the blitzes, that's the cool thing about this offense right now is you're getting good play design, but you're also getting elevation of the plays through tremendous effort and physicality of the players themselves, which I know that sounds crazy, but when you watch kind of average offenses, that doesn't happen. The play caller has to be on it all the time. And that's just not what's happening here. And it's really cool to watch them grow each and every week. And this week, we just talked about it. Like Jayden wasn't overly efficient, but we got elevation from other places because of we're getting plays from the running backs. We're getting plays from Terry. We're getting plays from OZ on 3rd and 10. Like there's some really cool stuff happening in this offense. And that is the thing that makes me most encouraged is now we're starting to share responsibility as opposed to it all being on Jayden like it was the last 2 weeks.
For sure. And one last note on Luke's block. Not only did he block Denzel Ward for about 4 seconds, he winds up blocking him into the other safety. Yeah. I don't know would have got there anyway, but like not only you block one guy for 4 seconds, you wind up blocking 2 guys because you block your block into another guy. So Luke McCaffrey, salute, sir. Take Command Podcast. That's Logan Paulson. I am Craig Hoffman. Let's talk a little bit more specifically about Jayden Daniels because it's a funny game, Logan, when you can score 34 points, pull your quarterback at the start of the 4th quarter, and you still go back and watch the tape and go, oh, there's a little bit more left here. Yeah. They could have scored 50. Like, and sometimes that's football, right? Like every play is designed to work. If that had just been a little bit better, you can do that to an extent every week. I think what's interesting about this one is there's some stuff that he's done pretty frequently this year that he misses in this game. There's a couple missed reads, there's a couple missed throws, and yet the thing that is so spectacular about him right now, and the thing that we talked about this on the Instant Reaction show, and the tape kind of confirmed it, when you can just make a couple of really key, big, explosive plays, you can wipe away smaller mistakes, and you don't have to be as efficient. You don't have to be as perfect as they've been the previous 3 games of the win streak, now 4 at 4-1, because you can make up for little misses with big gains, and I feel like that is the story of Jayden Daniels Sunday.
Yeah, and I think that was kind of what the narrative was going to be. It was like, how do you find explosive plays with how Cleveland was going to pressure you? And I think the first explosive play to Terry is a great example of that. But there's also plays later on in the game. I think you got to give credit to Austin Eckler. You know, that explosive play is huge. And but they all lead to points. They all lead to scoring opportunities. And Jayden Daniels, making free runners miss and understanding when to scramble. And if you are going to play a lot of man coverage and we're going to pick it up and you're going to have your back to the quarterback, he's going to hurt you. And I think that's the cool thing, is that he was able to find explosive plays down the field. The one to Diami is also really exquisite. I mean, that's just such a tremendous throw. I mean, really just a fantastic throw. The scramble on, I think it was 3rd and 7 where he gets the first down. It's like a 34-yard gain.
I think that might have been a 4th down even.
Maybe. But it wasn't as consistent down to down, but he was still able to make enough plays to make the offense right and elevate the offense, which is kind of the whole thing, right? Is we knew that the completion percentage, we knew that the efficiency was going to regress at some point. And so the question then became, like, can you win when it's not perfect? And I think the thing is he's shown how explosive he can be. He can show how explosive and accurate he can be. I think my big question coming out of the game is the thing that we said on the postgame show is, can you still do this in a game flow that's going to be a little bit more challenging versus a team like Baltimore, which is going to score a lot of points, which is going to put a lot of stress on you offensively and defensively, unlike Cleveland, which, again, they came with a really nice defensive plan that Jayden handled well, but they couldn't support it with any kind of offensive production, which is not how you play football in the NFL. You mentioned how Owusu-Koramoah looked gas going into the second half of that game. They were on the field so much, playing so many snaps in so many different situations. They just didn't get any support whatsoever from the offense. So that's the thing that I come back to is, again, I think this is we keep talking about steps and stages for Jayden Daniels. This is a really nice step and a really nice stage, but the intensity on that is going to get turned up when you play better offenses and a defense that can complement it. So I think that's something that, again, we keep kind of shadowing or alluding to this Baltimore game, and that's one of the reasons why.
Yeah, the thing that I have trust in this offense right now is they seem to do everything well. Like, you just have to make a choice as a defensive coordinator of, like, what is it that I want to make them do, knowing that they can do it, but we hope they have a bad day. And obviously, they have run the absolute mess out of the football with not only Jayden, but B-Rob has got a couple of 100+ yard games. Eckler's been great. Like, they will run the ball down your throat if you give them the numbers to do so. So it's like, okay, well, let's let Jayden beat us from the pocket, because we certainly don't want him to scramble. But he's shown the ability to do that. And there's, if you're going to dedicate an extra player down in the box to run, like, he will pick his matchups. And I think, he's shown a really good understanding of where that, like, the Diami play is very simple, right? He's got one-on-ones. He knows it, but he's like, this Emerson cat has not had a good year defensively for Cleveland. And I think Diami can win here. And even though Diami hasn't had as many of the explosive plays throughout his career as I think a lot of people thought he would when he got drafted, like, he's still Diami Brown. He's still really, really fast, and he trusted Diami to win, and he did, and you have a big explosive play. So I think that's the interesting thing going against Baltimore is, like, and any other good team they place this season is, like, okay, they're probably going to do what, frankly, Cincinnati tried to do to Baltimore last week with Lamar, of, like, can you beat us from the pocket? And in many ways, Jayden's game against Cleveland was similar to Lamar's game against Cincinnati, where it wasn't the most efficient, but, like, Jayden completed, was it 15 of 24 or something like that?
Yeah.
We had 238. Like, that's not a slouch a day of passing production. So he found the big plays to make the most out of the completions. And even though there's definitely some where there's some plays left on the field, some opportunities missed, the red zone, obviously was not great, that the pick, and he has a kind of a funky throw on the play before it. Like, it could have been even worse, even worse for Cleveland, even better for Washington statistically, and even better for Jayden statistically, with, like, one or two more key completions. Like, that is the floor underneath him, which is tremendous. Like, I hope people hear all that and, like, dang, that sounds really negative. No, that's actually exciting. It's like, he wasn't this, like, crazy, historically efficient 80% completion guy, and he was still this productive, and he was still this good. That's tremendously exciting, because the step that he's in right now is he's finding different ways to win games, and that's ultimately the job.
Yeah, and each week we want to look for some type of growth, and I think that's the thing I just alluded to prior to that. Is it wasn't the cleanest, it wasn't the most effective. I don't want to. I'm so excited for this team and this organization. Like, he has all the signs and kind of makings of like what everyone's been looking for here for a long time. But I do think that this team is somewhat imperfect, and I think this offense is still somewhat imperfect from a personnel and talent standpoint, even though they've been playing so well. So that's where, again, like in this game, I was actually hoping that Cleveland could put a little bit of pressure on them offensively. Like, let's say they go 3 and out and Cleveland goes down and scores. Does that change how Cliff calls a game? Does that change any of the dynamics in the offense? Do we lose some of that kind of running ground and pound that's made this team so successful? Is that less in the game plan? Is it more on Jayden? How does he handle more responsibility? So I think that's the thing, again, that I come back to. It's like, yeah, was his performance excellent? Absolutely, it was excellent. But I think he was really, when we talked about this a little bit at the top, but he was really supported by the defense. And the defense was able to, at every turn, give him the support that he needed. So 3 and out, it's okay. We'll get that. We'll get the turnover back for you. Oh, they're backed up. We'll get the ball back for you with good field position. Oh, okay, you're backed up. We punted. It's okay. No points here for Cleveland. And they just were able to constantly do that because of, how effectively the defensive game plan was, but also some of Cleveland's ineptitude. So it's great to see the explosive plays. It's great to see the production. It's great to see the composure, all those things we've seen. But what happens when it is all on him? And that's the thing that
right.
I think is like the next step. And we talked about steps, and I think he answered a step here for sure. But just so fans understand, like this, the volume on this can get turned up really, really quick if the offense of the other team is really good. And if you think about it, we've played imperfect offense. I mean, Cleveland, the Cincinnati Bengals is a great example of a really good offense that can execute at a super high level, especially when Joe Burrow's playing the way he did. And I think Jayden met that challenge there. However,
I was going to say Cincinnati was the best one, but also their defense has been horrendous.
Right. And so, Baltimore's a different animal. But again, so all these things are really good. And he took a step. But next week, it's going to be a new step. And how's he going to handle that adversity? How's he going to handle that moment? And I think those are the things that are really exciting about him, is that despite the adversity, despite the situation, despite the imperfectness of this last game, imperfect in air quotes there, because I think it's still a pretty gosh darn good game, he seems to meet the occasion. So to me, it's like, where's the line? Like, where is he in his final iteration? Like, where do we see him struggle or stumble? And we haven't really seen it yet. I mean, I know you kind of were alluding to the fact that this maybe was a stumble, but to find the explosive plays the way he did, to work and elevate the offense the way he did in certain moments, I think speaks to the kind of talent that he has. And it just, I want to see where the ceiling stops, basically. Where is that ceiling? And I think that's the thing is, in some ways I'm disappointed because Cleveland didn't challenge him in that way. And we didn't get, you know what I'm saying? Like that's kind of how
Browns, you didn't hold up your end of the bargain, although you were exactly who we thought you'd be, because you're terrible. And just to clarify, like I wouldn't say that it's a stumble. He found a different way to be excellent, right?
I don't mean to misquote you there.
Yeah. No, I think I'm glad you said it though, because it's a good point of clarification, right? It's not that he stumbled; it's that he did it. He found success differently. But I'd also say this in counter to your point: like, if the bar for him to potentially struggle, where we're like, oh God, can he do it against that team? Is Baltimore? Like, there ain't 5 teams that are better than Baltimore, and so like, look at the rest of the schedule. Carolina, no. The Chicago Bears, that's an interesting one, especially if Caleb gets rolling, because their defense has given up 21 points or less in 10 of their last 11 games going back to last season. The Giants, again, the Steelers, who offensively cannot keep up, even if their defense is great. The Eagles, we'll see where they are by mid-November. The Cowboys, okay, but their defense isn't that good. They're maybe starting to find some things. Tennessee, no. New Orleans, no. Philly again. Atlanta, they've been all over the place. Who knows what they are by December 29th. And then Dallas, like that's it. That's the season. Baltimore's maybe not easily, but Baltimore's definitively the best team you're going to play. And so even if he does struggle and it's like, okay, wow, that was a learning experience. If they were to play Baltimore again, they obviously can't play them in the playoffs, but a Baltimore caliber team again in the playoffs, they make it, they take this easier schedule, and all of a sudden you're in the playoffs facing one of those teams. I have full confidence the way that Jayden's learning curve has been that he'll be better the second time around against that caliber of team. And like, that's kind of the crazy thing with him is like, okay, maybe he will make a mistake, but he's not going to make the same mistake twice. And we've seen that in games. We've seen that almost in drives sometimes. And so game over game, week over week, month over month, I do have confidence that he will find it, because I just think he is that caliber of player already. Not that it's going to be smooth forever, not that he's never going to have off weeks. And we should, remember that he's human in that level. But I don't think the train's going to come off the tracks and crash in any meaningful way, even if it hits a bump in the road and they have to reset on 1 week at some point in the season.
Yeah, no, I see it exactly the same way. Which is exciting. It's when the season started, I never, in my wildest dreams, despite how high I was on Jayden, despite my love and respect for Adam Peters and Dan Quinn and what they've been able to do over the course of their careers, like I never anticipated this kind of turnaround, and it's been really fantastic to see kind of at every level. And it's not one thing, which is the great thing about it, which we talked about when we kind of reviewed that drive. It's everybody's supporting. Jayden's making plays. The effort and attitude of the team is improved. The coaching's much better. And all of a sudden, it just shows you, I think, kind of some of the things we were kind of much maligned about last year with regards to the staff, with regards to the talent on the roster. You just see how that all elevates when the situation's right. And it gives me a lot of hope and optimism that this thing could be kind of what you're talking about. The schedule outside of Baltimore isn't that crazy. I mean, New Orleans has done some good stuff, and Philly's always very, very talented. It's a division game. I'm not saying they're going to win out or anything like that, but all of a sudden there's life here. And I think you see that when you talk to the players and when you hear the players talk about Jayden, it's like, man, he just has it. He's the guy. There's something about him. And there's something really fantastic, thinking back to 2012 for me, about when you have that confidence in that position and when you have that hope and optimism and everyone's working hard, because there is a light at the end of the tunnel. It's not just a dark cavern you're running full speed into. It's like, man, if we hit this the right way, we could do something really, really special here. And I think you see that this game is a great data point for that, because of how Cleveland played them defensively, which we've talked about ad nauseum so far. But the fact we had to win it a different way and we could is special.
One thing that I did want to talk about with him, just a sequence that I'm looking to get a little more understanding on, is the red zone sequence where he ultimately throws the pick.
Yeah.
So they have the big play to Terry. Obviously, they get down there. I think they run the ball on first down. And there's two throws that I'm like, what's going on here? And I guess I'm curious in part from the Cliff side of it and part from the Jayden side of it, as they get down there and they're trying to punch it in, because obviously red zone execution is huge. Austin Seibert thankfully has been money this year, so they're able to get the field goal, or they would be able to get the field goal if they can just not throw an interception down there. But I'll phrase it this way, because I want to try to be positive with this, because Jayden deserves that based off how he's played. What can he learn from that? / what is he going to do next time when he inevitably throws a touchdown?
Yeah, what can you learn from it? So let's start with the first one, is Zach Ertz, and they're running basically like what I would call like a pick mesh. So basically you have two guys on the offensive left, they run across, it's man coverage, they try to pick the guy for Zach. I think the timing gets a little bit off, which I think is, again, where probably something most people don't see is Zach's a little bit behind it. So what I mean is, like, you probably want Zach on this clip to be over like the tackle when Jayden's getting ready to throw, as he's going to clear that backside hook defender. So basically, like, there's a guy in the middle of the field. He's the plug player. I think it's Owusu Koromoa. They run this pick, and Zach gets a little bit bogged down. He doesn't clear the hook player the way you'd want him to. You want him sprinting by that guy, and you want Jayden to see that, so he can just lead that nice out in front and get the ball there. But Zach's a little bit high. He's a little bit late. He's kind of stacked over the hook player, so the throw becomes a little bit unclear to me. And I'm sure I've seen them rep that in practice and training camp, and Jayden's excellent at it. Like, that guy clears, it's like boom, bang, ball's right there. That coupled with a little bit of pressure on the edge, I feel like he gets in these moments sometimes where he doesn't set his feet. Like, he's at his best, like every quarterback, when he sets his feet, and Jayden's superpower is that he can get to that base kind of whenever he wants to. But he doesn't do it here. And he kind of steps away from it, ball's a little bit high, and sails out of the back of the end zone or whatever it does. But I think so. It's a couple things. One, it's the execution on the play. It could be a little bit crisper, and that happens. This is stuff that happens, and we've seen him elevate plays off schedule and do some things. Didn't get it done here. So to me, it's the timing. To me, it's his footwork. And what I would say if I'm Cliff, I'm just say, hey, you know that he's coming open. Like, you see Zach running through here. Just, you're gonna have to take a hit for the touchdown. Take a hit, deliver a strike, throw it to grass. It's man coverage. There's nobody there. So if you miss the throwing to grass, I can live with that. Don't give him a shot, basically, is what I would say.
I almost feel like he threw to grass, just the grass was way too far ahead of Zach. And it's like if you could not loft it, but like you put a little bit more touch on that ball, let Zach run under it.
Yeah.
He just kind of fires a fastball to the spot. And it almost felt like a timing route that was clearly not a timing route. It's one you have to see, because you have to see him clear. You have to, it's a kind of like a mesh concept, I guess.
Yeah, you kind of have to, like, the best way I can explain it is you have to feel his speed, I would say. Yeah. After watching this a lot, like over the course of my career, you have to feel his speed enough to know he's going to clear that guy in the timing. And so I'm not sure you feel that from him. And so there is another variation of that where you run the cross, and if the hook player is widening, you take it high. And so, again, I kind of wonder if they weren't necessarily on the same page, because it is bogged down. He didn't run,
because it does look like he throws it higher. Yeah.
And so, again, all of that starts to me at the beginning of that play, where it gets a little bit muddy. It's like it's a little bit bogged down. The timing's not exactly right. He's not set. He doesn't trust it. And if I'm Cliff, honestly, I'm like, if you didn't love it, I'm okay with it. I'm okay with you throwing that away, because if we what's the word I'm looking for? If we throw a pick here, or if we do something bad here, obviously we lose points. So if you don't absolutely love it, I'm okay with that.
Throw it away.
So that's how I would coach it if I was in the room with him. But so to me, it's not, that's a tough throw. It's a tough look. It looks like a bad miss, but I think it's more on some of the other elements of the play.
Yeah, and again, he was taking pressure late in that down as well, so he's kind of fading back, and you kind of understand it. The next one's the one where it's like, okay, what's the coaching point here? Third and goal from the 5, and this is where the pick happens.
Yeah, so this is, I forget what we used to call this with Kyle, but it's like, it essentially plays like a spot route. So you get a corner, the tight end kind of works a wide and release, and then sits in between the two hook players. The back runs hard to the flat, hopefully pulling out that kind of, I think it's the corner, pulling them wide to make a window for the tight end. And so really this play is like, it's like a post-up play in basketball. You want that guy to run, the tight end to run, turn around right in the end zone, and the ball is on him. So you're throwing with a lot of anticipation, a lot of ball velocity. And this is one where I think Jayden just didn't read it out. He kind of predetermined that he was going to throw the ball to Zach, because that's where the ball should go. And I think when you look at the coverage, you say to yourself, well, there is a soft spot there. But Owusu-Koramoah, with the back running to the flat, and again, this is part of the play design, is sprinting that way. And Owusu-Koramoah, to his credit, does a really good job of closing that window. And I think back to the Arizona game, and there was a couple times where the linebacker is pushing to that spot, and Jayden, because of his quick release, is able to get the ball out so fast and so on time and squeeze it in the window. Owusu-Koramoah is a better football player. He anticipates it better. His coverage instincts were better. He's able to close the window. So if you're looking at it holistically, you'd say that's not there. And usually, are you looking at the play right now, Craig? Do you have it with you?
I am.
Is there someone running across the formation toward the window?
Terry is wide open on a slant on the backside of this. And that would be my question, right? So this bunch that they have is on the boundary side.
Yeah.
And they have a 2-man concept to the field. So on the offensive left, so the ball's on the right hash. The boundary is the shorter side of the field. For those that have heard that term, we might not know it. The field is the open side of the field. So the ball's on the right hash. They motion, or I guess it's kind of a tighter split with Ertz, and I think it's Zacchaeus down there. Yeah. And then B-Rob is the back to the right and going into the flat. And on the field side of this, on the back side, they have some wider splits. Terry's on the outside. I think it's Luke is going to run kind of a corner, and he runs fantastic interference. By the way, that is something Luke McCaffrey is incredible at. He is so good at running interference without picking up offensive pass interference. Like, that is a skill.
Yeah, he does a great job.
He does that, and Terry is wide open. And they're in part because the linebackers have gone to that 3 receiver side and have kind of pushed that way now, in part because Jayden opens to that side. But I still think there's so much space that if I'm like, my question to you actually that I wanted to get to you in this film review was like, did he read the wrong side of the field here? Not that he didn't throw with anticipation to the spot and the right concept if he's going to throw this, but because that's so muddy and because there's just not a lot of space there, should he have just been reading the field side anyway? And Terry is wide open on a slant on the backside of this.
Yeah, no, I don't know if he read the wrong side here, but I do think so what you want to do on this is, like, once that hook player, once Owusu-Koramoah plays hard underneath, you got to know that they're pushing this way. They're pushing with your vision.
Right.
So you want to kind of think about replacing the zone. The thing about this concept here that it's drawn up is it's like it's a one half of the field and the other half of the field. Sometimes they'll run like a crossing pattern over top where it's like, if that's dead, you just rip it right back to like a shallow cross. Terry's on a slant here. And I don't know, I probably would have worked just looking at how the field's distributed here with the plug player in the middle of the field. I probably would have worked the slant, but it's his prerogative here. And I think I don't know if he thinks this is man. It looks like man, and they kind of zone it. They like match it off. You know what I'm saying? In a way that I don't think he's expecting. Because like I think if you start at the start of the snap, you get 3 guys on the line, right? And so it looks like, hey, we're, a guy's on Zacchaeus, a guy's on Zach, a guy's on the back. So the guy in the back really should push through this window. What's his name? Not Owusu-Koramoah should push through to the back, right? At least that's what I would anticipate. But instead they pass it off. And so they get like a match concept. So I understand why he does this, and I understand why he's thinking this way. However, once you realize that guy's not matching the back and they're passing it off, you can't throw it. You just throw it out the back of the end zone. You can maybe hit the corner in the back, but like you can't. It's not designed in a way, in my opinion, where it's like I work here to there. They're 2 separate concepts. You pick them pre-snap, and I feel like they just kind of got them because of how Owusu-Koramoah played it. Quite honestly,
right. And potentially, like, in fairness to Jayden, right? If you're told all week long, hey, in the red zone, they're going to play man. They're going to man this. Like, we've got him. If you get, this is the look. Like, you would imagine that's probably the conversation. And Schwartz deserves credit for mixing it up and making it, the players on the Browns, like, credit to them for making it look like man and kind of getting him here. So,
just looking at that, like, I think he probably should have, like, once that's dead, the way that the corner played it, I think you want to try to throw the corner. And that's the read, right? It's the spot concept to the corner. And so once it gets muddy, my eyes should flick up and I can put that ball right to the back of the end zone. And I think he just kind of was like, it's man. I know it's man, which we've seen him do before, because he studies so much. He prepares so hard. He's like, I know the coverage. This is how they're going to play it. I'm going to trust my study, which as a quarterback, I think that's one of the most challenging things to do is you have to do that. You can't just read and react. You have to anticipate a defensive reaction because it just happens so quickly. I feel like he anticipated the wrong thing and it led to an interception.
For sure. But the fun thing about him at this point in his career, one for the file, stick it in there. Yeah. Next time he's going to know better because that is how Jayden Daniels operates. And you have faith that he's again, not going to make the same mistake twice. All right, we went a little long, obviously, on the offense, but there's so much to talk about, and we're very excited to see how this offense can perform against Baltimore. So what we're going to do is we're going to release a second film review pod on the defense only. It won't be a full-length pod, if you will, not 45 minutes, but carve out 15, 20 minutes of your day on Wednesday to listen to us break down the defense. So look forward to that tomorrow. As for the offensive pod, we appreciate you listening, and we'll see you next time on Take Command. Thanks for watching this clip of Take Command, which has a brand new home.
That's right. You can watch on YouTube at the Team 980.
You can also listen to full episodes in the free Odyssey app, which is now enabled with Apple CarPlay. So we'll just, follow you around.